Hello again, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for this Tuesday's edition of Alaska Weather on the 5th day of April 2022. I'm David Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting today's show. Up first, the hazardous weather graphic. Getting the right frame, there we go. Got a high wind watch out for the it looks like the southern three-quarters of the southeast coast there, from Juneau on down toward Dixon Entrance, including Sitka, Port Alexander, Heidelberg, Craig, Flawak, Hoonah, those areas, and Ketchikan as well as Metlakatla. And that goes into effect Wednesday afternoon and stays in effect through Wednesday night for strong winds. Winds of big storm coming in toward the south coast and west of the Queen Charlotte. It's expected to increase winds from the east-southeast during the afternoon tomorrow and into tomorrow night of 25 to 35 miles an hour with gusts above 60 miles per hour. Otherwise, no other watches, warnings, or advisories out around the state, just that high wind watch there for the Panhandle. And then the National Weather Service zone changes goes into effect today. It has gone into effect, so the transfer of forecast office responsibilities, Anchorage to Fairbanks, goes Cantwell and the Denali area, as well as Hooper Bay and Chivak, if I'm pronouncing that right. And then from Fairbanks to Anchorage, over toward the eastern Alaska Range, goes Mentasta Lake and Chisana. So those forecast zones and areas will be written by Anchorage and not Fairbanks any longer. And then the new marine zone, Atoll and Strait to Doll Point, that'll be handled by the Fairbanks office. And again, for more detailed information, you can find it in the news headlines at the top of the National Weather Service Anchorage and Fairbanks web pages. Satellite imagery showing the clouds over the southeast interior, Kenai Peninsula, and the North Gulf Coast brought the 1 to 3 inches of snow across south central Alaska, from the Kenai Peninsula up into the Manaska-Susitna Valley earlier today, late last night and early this morning, and the now pushing into the Copper River Basin and northward and into the Alaska Range there, not really getting too far north of the mountains, maybe some light snow over in the 40-mile country there. But generally in the interior, not looking bad, some clearing with variably cloudy skies, and cold air continuing to pour southward through the Bering Strait into the Pribilof Islands, and the entire Bering Sea covered in Arctic air down to the Aleutians, with snow showers occurring, light snow showers in areas. Snow showers right along the east side of Kodiak Island. The Panhandle drying out. Showers earlier today brought about 1/4 of an inch to Ketchikan. Showers going on into the afternoon, actually, there for Ketchikan. Starting to diminish currently there, probably will end in the next hour or so if they haven't already. And also for Juneau and Sitka, picked about 1/10 of an inch of shower activity today, those ending from south to north, kind of getting into some higher pressure, the calm before the storm. You can see the cirrus shield with the next storm there to the south of the Queen Charlotte Islands. And rolling this again, you can see clearing skies or clearer, drier conditions now moving into the Panhandle. And the next storm will be rolling up late tonight and into tomorrow, as we'll see on the surface graphics. Otherwise, low pressure, and that brought the snow to south central Alaska earlier today. Kenai Peninsula, that since broke out to some sunshine. Cook Inlet and the Kenai Peninsula gradually working northward this afternoon. And area of light snow and snow showers extending down toward Bristol Bay, the Alaska Peninsula. And that north to south flow continuing to bring surges of moisture, especially south of the ice edge, which is near St. George Island. Picks up moisture, drops it as snow showers from Adak and Atka into the eastern Aleutians. Winds, let's see, southerly winds there gusted to 35 miles an hour as that low lifted northward at Gulkana in the Copper River Basin along the Copper River. Pretty breezy conditions. South gust 35 at Gulkana today. Seward earlier today had gusts to about 33 miles per hour. And then on the other side of the trough axis, where winds are northerly, Juneau had a wind gust to 36 miles an hour this morning. They're coming down now this afternoon. And anywhere from Adak eastward to the Alaska Peninsula, Cold Bay, and the Pribilofs, winds are out of the north and northwest, gusting 35 to 45 miles an hour. Again, continuing to pull that cold air southward to the eastern central Aleutians and beyond to the south there. And for tonight, that pattern will continue. Winds will begin to lighten up, though, for the Alaska Peninsula and eastern Aleutians. That gradient kind of stretches out. Much lighter winds for the Pribilofs up to St. Lawrence Island. A little breezy along the southwest coast. Tooksuk Bay, for example, Cape Romanzoff might see gusts 25, possibly 30 miles an hour out of the north, but lighter winds for the Seward Peninsula. Look for some scattered snow shower activity for the western Arctic coast into the Noatak Valley, Kivalina, Point Hope, Cape Lisburne, but amounts will be on the light side, but keep the skies mostly cloudy. That should keep the overnight lows a little warmer than they otherwise would be. Otherwise, the North Slope generally dry, variably cloudy, clear areas dropping down toward 30, maybe 35 degrees below zero. New Ixit was 34 below this morning. There's a cold spot in the state with 25 to 30 below temperatures over the remainder of the North Slope this morning. Probably see that again tomorrow morning into the Brooks Range, Arctic Village, and Atuvik Pass. But warmer conditions with clouds and areas of snow and snow showers south of the Brooks Range into the southeast interior. Southerly flow, breezy evening for the Copper River Basin along the Copper River itself, but those winds will start to diminish gradually later tonight. But the south to southeast flow can see a pretty good trough swinging up to the eastern North Gulf Coast. Look for periods of rain or rain and snow mixed for the eastern North Gulf Coast. That becomes more showery along the Kenai Peninsula to Kodiak Island. Dries out over the Panhandle. Take a little longer for the showers to end up in the northern areas, but should see some clearing down to the south. You can see that next storm, 991 millibar low there southwest of the Queen Charlotte's tomorrow. That deepens to 990 millibars, moves northward to west of the Queen Charlotte Island, so winds will be on the increase tomorrow afternoon. In fact, storm warnings in the forecast for the central and south coast of the Panhandle for 50 to 55 knot winds, and actually hurricane force wind gusts there along the south coast late tomorrow afternoon and tomorrow night. Rain and snow in the increase from south to north, probably staying dry, may reach Juneau late in the afternoon, but Lincoln, Glacier Bay, Haines, Skagway will stay dry. And then that trough hangs up across Prince William Sound into the Susitna Valley there, maybe turning an arm. So it looks cloudy with snow showers or rain and snow showers, depending on your time of day and elevation there for the Kenai Peninsula on up into Cook Inlet, or Kenai Peninsula on up into the Mananuska-Susitna Valley. But the Tanana Valley and eastern interior looks pretty good with some sunshine, but temperatures staying well below freezing, and snow showers continue along trough axis both at the surface and aloft, lying over the western interior. That'll keep snow shower chances from the western Arctic coast right on down into Bristol Bay, the Alaska Peninsula, to Unalaska Island, but improving conditions, increasing sunshine, light winds out over the Aleutians and Bering Sea. You can see only one or two isobars drawn out there. So definitely lighter winds, more sunshine out in that area, but some showers, snow showers into the St. Lawrence Island area. That'll increase. Look for a general area of light snow, low clouds, fog, IFR, with southwest flow coming over the top of that 1,025 millibar high into the northern Bering Sea for a change now into the Seward Peninsula, Yukon Delta coast. Lower conditions with some light snow, but sunshine, Kuskokwim Delta, northern Bristol Bay. Snow showers continue at least for another day for the Fox Islands and the Alaska Peninsula. And looks like another round of snow coming into Cook Inlet, especially late Thursday into Friday for south central Alaska. Definitely will be cold enough, and that'll extend up into the central interior and then angle back toward the western Arctic coast. Stays unsettled, but a lot less wind and a lot less rain for the Panhandle on Thursday. For the lows tonight, again, 20 to 35 below North Slope in the Arctic coast, and below zero temperatures all the way down almost to the Pribilofs, down forecast low of 2 at St. Paul. Otherwise, 20s to lower 30s south central Alaska, and in the 30s, mostly all above freezing for the Panhandle or near freezing. Highs in the 40s. Southern Alaska, lower 40s. South of the Alaska Range, mid to upper 40s for the Panhandle. Highs in the mid-20s to lower 30s for the Alaska Peninsula. Below zero from roughly St. Lawrence Island to the North Slope and Arctic coast. And lows in the teens, central interior, Thursday morning, 25 to 30 for south central Alaska. And again, below zero, but not all that far below, 5 to 10 below to maybe 15 below around Kotzebue. Still below zero, St. Lawrence Island, near zero for the Yukon Delta coast. And then highs, looking at mid-40s for the Fairbanks area, lower to mid-40s for south central Alaska. And that's all I've got.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Moving on to flying weather. VFR, Central Eastern North Slope, Central Eastern Arctic Coast, and a zone of IFR. Southeastern Brooks Range, right across the Yukon Flats, Kobuk-Koyukuk Valley, and then southward across the mid-Yukon River there, right on down across the Kuskokwim Valley into northern Bristol Bay, and then some IFR in the eastern slopes of the western Alaska Range, some IFR along the North Gulf Coast into the northern Panhandle, VFR southern southeast coast, VFR eastern interior, and for the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta, west of the Kuskokwim Mountains, VFR to the southern Seward Peninsula, northern Bering Sea VFR, southern Bering Sea marginal VFR, including the Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula, and a good portion of Kodiak Island, but IFR pushing into Shimiana too. That backs off a little bit out west there on Wednesday afternoon, but the Aleutians stay marginal as well as the Alaska Peninsula. There'll probably be some VFR scattered around in there. It'll be a lot more widespread though around the Pribilofs up to St. Lawrence Island. West Coast and Western Interior, mostly VFR. Now still a zone of lower conditions there along the Kuskokwim Valley into northeast Bristol Bay, with IFR persisting there from the Yukon River up across the Kobuk Valley to the slopes of the Brooks Range, but north of the Brooks Range up there, North Slope Arctic Coast, VFR. Central Eastern Interior, north of the Alaska Range, VFR. South of the mountains, though, marginal VFR. IFR, Prince William Sound, maybe into the southern Copper River Basin. Becoming VFR there, Yakutat, Lincoln Glacier Bay, marginal VFR. Southern two-thirds of the southeast coast and southwest Kodiak Island, marginal. That holds for Kodiak Thursday morning. Looks like Chiniap, Marmot Bay, Azenki on up to Fogneck Island. And southern Cook Inlet, extreme southern Cook Inlet, VFR, marginal VFR, Kenai Peninsula on up to the Manauskas-Susitna Valley with some persisting IFR, western Prince William Sound. Zone of IFR, western Alaska Range, Kuskokwim Valley, right on up and kind of expanding there across the lower Koyukuk, right up to the Brooks Range, pretty good IFR zone, and that includes the western and central Arctic coast. Out west, northern Bering Sea still looking really good with the VFR right down to St. Paul Island, marginal VFR south of there across the Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula, IFR for the Panhandle. That improves Thursday afternoon, just some lingering IFR, Lincoln Glacier Bay along the Klondike Highway, say up to White Pass, and let's see, both Chilkoot and White Pass IFR, and then southern Panhandle improving with some VFR breaking out. Kodiak Island VFR, southern Kenai Peninsula, Kamishak, Kachemak Bay, Cook Inlet VFR, southwest interior right up to the Yukon River VFR, marginal VFR in a zone there from Denali Park in the western Alaska Range up across the mid-Yukon River Valley, Koyukuk Valley marginal, Kobuk Valley, southern slopes of the Brooks Range. Passes, Anatuvik, marginal VFR, split the difference here, go a little farther east. I think it'll be drier, so let's call it VFR for Adigan. Lake Clark and Merrill, mostly marginal. Rainy, mostly marginal. Windy, marginal VFR, especially through the pass and just to the south. Isabel, marginal VFR. Mentasta, marginal VFR, lowest conditions southern entrance. Out the north side, VFR. And for the Tanita Pass VFR, or marginal VFR, IFR for Portage, Chilkoot and White, VFR with a big storm down to the south. Freezing levels right along the coastline, Kodiak Island, but south of the Alaska Peninsula and eastern Aleutians. In fact, the ways south, cutting back up across Adak with some warmer air at the next front, 2,000 to 4,000 feet, western Aleutians. Icing, considerable moderate rime icing moving into the southern Panhandle with that big storm, and then a zone of icing extending up to the North Gulf Coast. And taking a look at the jet stream, kind of making pull back to the north with that deepening storm moving northward off the southeast coast at this elevation. So 130 knot jet across the Queen Charlottes and around 100 knots just clipping Dixon entrance there. And then way out west, we've got northerly 70 to 75 knots, western Bering Sea sweeping down across the western Aleutians. 9,000 feet, southerlies 45 knots, western interior, and up to 70 knots there south of the Queen Charlottes, but 35 to 50 knot winds coming into the southern Panhandle. And looking at 3,000 feet, 70-knot winds at this elevation right over Dixon Entrance, coming into the southern southeast coast, but turning kind of easterly there. South 30 in the Gulf of Alaska, light winds everywhere else. Turbulence, considerable moderate chop, central and southern southeast coast, surface 6,000 feet, maybe some light chop for the Alaska Peninsula.
On March 11, 2011, a powerful tsunami hit Japan, destroying cities and villages. As the water receded back into the ocean, it pulled what remained of buildings, cars, boats, and homes along with it. Scrap metals, plastics, and objects of all shapes and sizes either sank near the shore or floated away. In the days that followed, large masses of floating debris could easily be seen by satellite imagery and aerial photos. In the wake of this disaster, NOAA is assessing the potential impact that the debris may have on U.S. shores. So, where will this debris go, and when will it get there? To help answer those questions, scientists are using computer models to estimate the debris' path, using its starting location in the tsunami zone and historical weather and ocean conditions. The findings are that some debris could pass near or wash ashore in the northwestern Hawaiian Islands as early as this winter. Debris may also approach the west coast of the United States in 2013 and potentially circle back to the main Hawaiian Islands in 2014. But scientists caution that there are limitations to what computer models can tell us. Now that the debris has moved out of satellite view, and with currents and winds in the Pacific constantly changing, there is no guarantee that the debris will stay on the predicted path. Items will sink along the way, or break up and disperse in many directions. Despite these unknowns, NOAA and its partners are collecting data, assessing possible impacts, and making preparations in case debris does wash ashore. The 2011 tsunami in Japan reminds us that the devastation that happens on land can also become a marine debris issue at sea.
Imagine all of this underwater. In a major tsunami, it could happen. In this part of Washington state, it's happened before, hundreds of years ago. Sometime in the future, it will likely happen again. But we can be ready. If a tsunami strikes, this school will provide a place for people to ride it out above the waves.
We're in Westport, Washington, and right behind me is the very first tsunami vertical evacuation center in the United States.
This is an emergency. Please run to the nearest exit.
Let's go.
Go to the stair tower and proceed up the stairs.
Tsunamis are a potential hazard for low-lying coastal areas. That's why many coastal communities have plans in place to get people to safety, high ground or inland, where they can be beyond the reach of a tsunami. Often there are signs showing where to go and where to gather. Most tsunamis are caused by underwater earthquakes along subduction zones, where two of Earth's plates collide and one is forced under the other. Westport and other Pacific Northwest coastal communities are especially at risk because one of these zones lies just offshore. It's called the Cascadia Subduction Zone. An earthquake here caused a tsunami in 1700 that flooded shores as far away as Japan. Experts say it's just a matter of time before it happens again. Since the subduction zone is so close, a tsunami like the one in 1700 could strike before people in some low-lying areas could get to high ground or inland. And Westport doesn't have a lot of high ground or easy routes inland.
If we get an earthquake or a tsunami, we're going to get a lot of water in the area really quickly, and we needed a place to go. So our community built this brand new school, and above our gym and cafeteria, we have a roof. And so the idea is that we'll get all of our students up, and anybody from the community who needs to get up, they can get up there as well.
Ocosta Elementary School might seem like a normal school, but look more closely. It's engineered to withstand monster waves. Tsunami vertical evacuation shelters must be able to resist the powerful forces that a tsunami brings. Hydrodynamic, buoyant, hydrostatic, and debris impact forces and strong currents. They're also designed to help people get to safety quickly.
There are 4 big staircases on each corner of the building, and each one of those staircases is 8 feet wide, and we can get the whole school evacuated in about 4.5 minutes.
Everybody should be at a 0.
On the roof of the building, there is water and food and buckets and shelters and tarps and blankets and different things so that we can be up there for 2, 3, maybe 4 days while we wait for rescue.
You can go to the top and you know you'll be safe. It feels really nice to have a special building because you feel protected.
This community decided that a tsunami evacuation center was important because they didn't have anywhere to go, and they decided to use their money to build the building. The additional cost is anywhere between 10 and 20% of the actual building cost itself, and that's really a sound investment for a lot of protection. You may be there a while, but you're safe and you're secure, and that's the most important thing.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Looking at today's sea ice analysis. Still ice down near St. George Island and around St. Paul Island. And again, that's going to continue in that area for the next few days and then possibly southerly flow late this week or into the week, and we'll push it back to the north. And from there, moving on to coastal water forecasts. Big storm coming into the Panhandle area tomorrow, southern Panhandle. So we've got storm warnings out along the south coast. South to southeast winds coming up to 55 knots, especially tomorrow afternoon with, looks like gale force gusts to 70 knots and seas 25 to 30 feet. And then on the north coast or the central coast, storm warnings east 50-knot winds. And then small craft advisories for the north coast, southeast winds coming up to 25 knots, seas building to 10 feet. Clarence Strait, full gales, southeast increasing to 40 knots tomorrow afternoon into the evening. And northeast 25, gust 35 for Stevens Passage. Lincoln Glacier Bay, northern inner channels, winds will be north of 20 knots. And then on Thursday, much lighter winds on the south coast, north coming down to 20 knots, and north 15 for Clarence Strait, northwest 20 for Stevens Passage. Lincoln Glacier Bay, north at 15. Gale warnings continue on the north coast there for winds of 35 to 40 knots. North Gulf Coast, southeast winds 15 to 25 knots, Prince William Sound, southeast winds 15 knots, seas 3 feet. Southern Cook Inlet, southeast winds 20 knots with 5-foot seas, and small craft advisories for Kamishak Bay for southeast winds at 25 knots with 5-foot seas. Barren Islands, southeast winds at 20. West winds 20 knots, seas 8 feet for the Barren Islands on Thursday. Small craft advisories, Kamishak Bay, west winds 25 knots, seas 6 feet. West winds 15 knots, Southern Cook Inlet, variable at 10 for Northern Cook Inlet. South winds 10 knots for Prince William Sound, and a southwest breeze at 15 knots for the North Gulf Coast. Kodiak Island for Wednesday, southeast winds 15 knots, seas 3 to 7 feet. Alaska Peninsula, northwest winds 20 knots, seas 6 feet. Bristol Bay, west winds 15 knots, seas 3 feet. 25-knot winds for Bristol Bay on Thursday. Northwest 20 knots for the Alaska Peninsula. And for Kodiak Island, west-northwest winds at 20 knots with seas 5 to 7 feet. On Alaska, or for the Fox Islands, both Unmac and Unalaska Island, north to northwest winds 20 knots. Adak and Atka for Wednesday, northwest winds 15 to 20 knots, and then light northwest breezes from Chitka to Shemya tomorrow for northwest winds at northwest 15 with 7-foot seas. And for Thursday, Shemya to Kiska, southeast winds 20 knots, and Chitka Island east winds at 15 knots. And for the central and eastern Aleutians, variable winds 10 to 15 knots, seas running 3 to 5 feet, really coming down. And for the Pribilof Islands on Wednesday, northwest winds 20 knots, seas 4 feet. Southwest coast, northwesterlies 15 to 20 knots, 3 to 4 foot seas, and northwest 15 for St. Matthew and St. Lawrence Island. Outlook for Thursday, south winds 25 knots, St. Matthew Island, north 15 for the Pribilofs, west-northwest 20 knots for the southwest coast, and westerlies 10 to 15 knots, Norton Sound and St. Lawrence Island. Eastern Arctic coast tomorrow, east winds 20 knots, central and western Arctic coast, east winds 15 knots, and north to northwest winds 10 to 15 knots from Wales to Cape Beaufort. Those will be 10 knots from Wales to Cape Beaufort on Thursday. From the west-northwest, east winds along the Arctic coast 10 to 20 knots. And for tonight, kind of the calm before the storm coming into the southern panhandle as it dries out with some clearing and light winds. Trough brings rain and snow to the North Gulf Coast with showers over the northern panhandle. Chance of snow, pretty widespread area of possible light snow or snow showers over the interior, south of the Brooks Range and away from the west coast. Snow showers continue over the Aleutian southern Bering Sea into the Alaska Peninsula and Bristol Bay. And for tomorrow, snow showers from the Alaska Peninsula northward to the southern slopes of the western Brooks Range, some of that spilling into south central Alaska and the North Gulf Coast with that trough kind of hanging up along the coastline. Big storm comes into the panhandle. High wind watches out for possible wind gusts over 60 miles an hour central and southern panhandle. That moves through and weakens, replaced by a weak ridge, so much drier and lighter winds, maybe some clearing in the afternoon for the southern panhandle. Showers in the north, unsettled for the North Gulf Coast. Interior Alaska continues cold with another round of snow coming into south central Alaska, Cook Inlet, Manauskas-Susitna Valley, and extending back to the western Arctic coast. High pressure makes for light winds out over the Bering Sea with some snow showers along the Alaska Peninsula and eastern Aleutians.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.